All right, let's jump right in. I want you to do me a quick favor. Just think of a number between 1 and 10. Okay? You got it? Awesome. Keep it locked right there in your head. Now, allow me to tell you a little bit about yourself. You're generally a really kind, considerate person, right? But if someone betrays your trust, you find it almost impossible to let them back into your life. Oh, and you totally have a box, or maybe a junk drawer somewhere in your house, filled with old, useless keys, maybe some dead batteries, or random electronics you haven't touched in at least 5 years. And right now, you are holding on to a secret ambition, something you haven't even told your closest friends because, well, you're a little afraid they might judge you.
So, how did I know all of that? Am I literally inside your head right now? Well, no. I'm definitely not psychic. I have never met you. But I just used a very specific combination of well documented psychological vulnerabilities to make you feel like I know your absolute deepest secrets. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're completely pulling back the curtain on the psychological framework that mentalists, fortune tellers, and, yeah, unfortunately, sometimes scammers use to simulate supernatural powers. Oh, and by the way, that number you thought of just a few seconds ago, it was 7, wasn't it? Statistics say it almost always is, which just goes to show that what feels like magical mind reading isn't magic at all. It's just a highly predictable psychological vulnerability that we all share.
Okay, section 1, hot versus cold reading. To truly grasp how this illusion is built from the ground up, we first need to look at the foundational mechanics performers use. So let's set the stage by defining the two main methods in a mind reader's playbook.
There's a pretty stark contrast between these two techniques. Hot reading is, well, frankly, it's just cheating. It happens when a so-called psychic researches you beforehand. They might scroll through your Facebook profile, dig into public records, or even just eavesdrop on you while you're sitting in the waiting room. But cold reading, now that is pure on-the-spot psychology. It is the absolute art of reading a person completely fresh, without any prior knowledge whatsoever. When a mentalist does a cold reading, they aren't extracting information from the spirit world, they're extracting it from you. And then they feed it back to you so incredibly fast that you actually believe the information originated with them.
The entire architecture of cold reading relies heavily on this one core psychological phenomenon, the Forer effect, which is also sometimes called the Barnum Effect. Basically, this is our psychological tendency to believe that generic, super vague personality descriptions apply specifically and uniquely to us. The name actually comes from a psychologist named Bertram Forer. Back in 1948, he conducted this fascinating experiment. He gave a personality test to his students, completely ignored every single one of their actual answers, and then handed every single student the exact same completely vague personality profile.
And then he asked those students to rate how accurate that fake profile was on a scale from 0 to 5. The average rating they gave it? A massive 4.26 out of 5. That number is wild, and it tells us literally everything we need to know about human nature. We desperately want to believe that we are uniquely understood. Cold reading simply exploits that deep-seated desire. Section 2, the mentalist's verbal toolkit. Let's really dive into the specific tools that make this illusion possible. If you watch master mentalists at work, you'll see they aren't just guessing blindly. Not at all. They rely on a highly structured verbal toolkit to build these illusions.
So here's a high-level overview of the 4 main linguistic tricks that make up a cold reader's arsenal. We've got the Rainbow Ruse, Shotgunning, the Vanishing Negative, and the clever use of flattery paired with high-probability guesses. Let's break down exactly how each of these tricks your brain.
First up is the Rainbow Ruse, which is absolutely the cornerstone of mind reading. It works by crediting a person with a very specific personality trait and then immediately contradicting it. Take a look at this phrase. You are very disciplined on the outside, but underneath you feel insecure. Why does this work so perfectly every time? Well, because human beings are complex. We are all introverted and extroverted depending on the day or our mood. By covering both sides of the coin in a single sentence, the reader literally guarantees they're going to be right. Next, we have shotgunning. Think of an actual shotgun blast. It fires this wide spray of tiny pellets, basically just hoping one of them hits the target. In the world of mind reading, shotgunning means offering a huge amount of general information very quickly. A mentalist might say something like, I'm seeing an older male figure, a name starting with J or M, maybe an uncle or grandfather with a chest condition. I mean, think about it. Almost everyone has a J or M male figure somewhere in their extended family tree with some kind of health issue. The reader simply throws out these rapid guesses, totally ignores the misses, and then doubles down the exact moment they see you nod or gasp.
And this brilliantly leads us to our third technique, the vanishing negative. This is essentially a linguistic safety net that ensures the mentalist is never, ever wrong. You just phrase a statement as a question using a negative. Like, you don't happen to own a horse, do you? If you say yes, they reply with, yes, I see the strong connection. But if you say no, they seamlessly pivot to, no, I didn't think so. The energy around you is far too urban for that. Regardless of your answer, they look like they knew it all along. It's a win-win for them.
Finally, we have flattery and high probability guesses. Look, we all love hearing good things about ourselves, but the hard truth is that our habits and experiences are remarkably ununique. If a reader guesses that you have an old scar on your left knee, or a broken piece of jewelry sitting in a drawer somewhere, or that you felt misunderstood in high school, they're going to be right over 80% of the time. We are way more predictable than we'd ever like to admit. Section 3, high-speed observation. But here's the thing, verbal tricks are only half the battle. Let's shift gears and focus on physical cues. Because the real magic of cold reading comes from an intense, almost Sherlock Holmes style of high-speed observation that mentalists refer to as fishing. While the reader is just casually talking to you, they're aggressively scanning you for clues, much like a detective. Wear and tear on your clothing or shoes, that can indicate your profession or financial state. They're watching closely for pupil dilation or a sudden change in your breathing, which signals excitement or a hit when they mention a specific topic. They're looking for micro-expressions, a split-second grimace or smile that tells them if they're getting warmer or colder. They'll even look at jewelry and tan lines. A faded ring line on a finger indicates a recent divorce or separation, which is an absolute prime target for a psychic reading. You, the subject, are physically guiding the entire narrative. You are essentially writing the script for the mentalist without even opening your mouth. Section 4, the red hammer trick. Okay, let's see how all of this builds into an actual rapid-fire trick that you can go perform tonight to witness this kind of cognitive overload in real time. And the best part? You don't need years of practice for this. It's a classic psychological force. So here is exactly how you do it. Find a friend, tell them you're going to program their mind, and instruct them to answer your questions as fast as humanly possible without even thinking. Then you hit them with this rapid-fire sequence. What's 1 plus 1? What's 2 plus 2? What's 4 plus 4? What's 8 plus 8? Quick, name a vegetable. Quick, name a color and a tool. The results of this sequence are just staggering. Statistically, over 70% of people who are rushed through this specific, overwhelming math sequence will instantly blurt out red hammer when asked for a color and a tool. Crazy, right? Why does this happen? Because the rapid math induces a temporary mental overload in the logical part of the brain. It literally forces their subconscious to panic and default to the absolute most basic, culturally common archetypes available to us. Seriously, try it out. It is terrifyingly effective. Section 5, the power of deception. As we bring this explainer to a close, we really have to look at the why. Why do our brilliant, complex brains fall into these psychological traps so easily? It's basically because human beings are ultimately meaning-making machines. We desperately look for patterns, for connections, and for validation in absolutely everything we experience. When a mind reader tells us a compelling story about ourselves, our brains automatically do the heavy lifting to fill in the blanks and make it true. But it is so vital to recognize how these exact same psychological tools can be used in wildly different ways. In the hands of a skilled entertainer, cold reading is a beautiful form of art. It creates a sense of wonder and mystery that's incredibly fun to experience. But in the hands of a con artist, these exact same techniques are weaponized. They are used to exploit grief, fear, and loneliness, tricking really vulnerable people into believing they're speaking to lost loved ones or predicting the future. So the next time someone claims they can read your mind, peer into your future, or speak to the great beyond, remember the Forer effect. Remember the red hammer. The magic isn't actually in their supernatural abilities. The real magic is inside your own incredibly complex, beautifully vulnerable psychology. Before you go, I want to challenge you to reflect on your own mind today. Leave a comment down below. What number did you actually think of at the very start of this explainer? Were you part of the statistic? Thanks so much for learning with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.